Hello everyone. Today I am looking at the Simpsons Hit and Run. It's funny, I saw this game, kind of people talking about it, and I remember back in the day I rented it for the GameCube, but I don't think I think I beat it. I'm not sure, but I definitely remember that we rented it, and so I was like, we don't have the data anymore. But I'm looking at it, and I'm like, this game looks actually pretty decent. So I decided to pick up a copy online off eBay, and it's wonderful. I love this game. I'm actually blown away by just a normal collectathon racing game from 2003 is this good. The other thing that also shocked me about the game is, and it's running on a GameCube, it's basically running at 60 frames, and it's hilariously like very modern looking. And it's just amazing how unoptimized games have become, where we have amazing graphics, but it runs at a terrible pace. So even just from a typical normal graphical standpoint, again, the graphics they're all cartoon based, so they know they weren't putting their priorities there. But it just from a frame rate perspective, it runs great, it performs amazingly, and it's fun too. Also, for a game that was basically GTA for kids, the collision mechanics are pretty good. I mean, sometimes they're, typically as frustrating as GTA, but they're very, very decent. And in some ways, I'd prefer this game over a GTA game, honestly, because the dialogue is genuinely hilarious. So people are right when they say that in the Hall of Licensed Games, this is definitely up there. And the story, of course, is nothing important. Basically, there's this new Buzz Cola that's kind of going across the nation, and of course, it's like some alien conspiracy to enslave people and turn them into, mind slaves. Well, what the actual thing turns out to be is that, similar to the South Park episode, the Simpsons are actually all on Earth TV, and so their ratings have been slipping, and so they give everyone. They're trying to give everyone laser guns and this, Coke beverage to basically make them go crazy, so that the ratings for the show of Earthlings will go up. I have to say though that, again, another thing about licensed games is I haven't played a whole bunch of them, but usually the writing is the thing that suffers the most. It's just not the same. I think there was the SpongeBob game that came out on Game Pass, and I tried like 10 minutes of that, and not there were like it was legitimately terrible, not from a joke and writing perspective alone, but also the voice acting. And I don't know, or I certainly can't tell, but all the voice acting for all the Simpsons characters, even all the side characters in this game, feel totally legit. Like they all feel like they actually are the same voice actors from the show. And if they aren't, then like kudos to the person. I could not tell. It's super, super impressive. And maybe because the Simpsons are so ubiquitous, they had a lot of impersonators or voice actors or something, but they did an amazing job. I just think back to that SpongeBob one, like the Patrick, the Mr. Krabs one. Plankton was okay, but even Squidward, like the main character, the main cast of that, again, it's a licensed children's game. It simply was so poor and so bad. I was kind of gobsmacked. I'm like, yeah, this is legitimately terrible. And then you look at this game, and this is like amazing. Not only the writing, but the characters, the constant dialogue. I mean, it gets a little bit annoying when you're on a super hard mission, of which there are a handful, in the game. And I would just say that, this is definitely from an era when games were expected to be hard and have a lot of replay value. And the last mission in this game is frustratingly hard. It's very, very difficult. I wasn't sure it was the last one, but I thought, oh yeah, this is super, super difficult. It has to be the last one. And what it is, just to quickly like get to it, is it's the Springfield map, and you have to drive all the way from the school to the nuclear power plant, pick up a nuclear waste bomb, and then once you have that bomb, you can't get hit. Largely, you can tap things, but once you have that nuclear bomb, if you make any major collisions, it'll dislodge, and you have to drive all the way back or reset the mission if you're too far away. That mission probably took me 20 to 30 tries. It probably took me a couple hours as an adult to beat. So that whole era of making games super, super difficult was definitely still alive and well when this game came out. What else? So yeah, no, the writing is legitimately hilarious. Like like when they have the grandpa in the last mission, he starts mentioning things like, oh, take that Kaiser Wilhelm, things like that. Like I've forgotten what it was like to laugh at a video game. I think there were like a handful of games that are legitimately funny. But this is definitely one of them. It definitely has as good writing as the Simpsons show, and maybe even better in some cases. But it definitely captures that energy and that vibrance. Like this is a great game, and it lasts to me maybe like a weekend, but it is absolutely amazing. It's short, it's sweet. I mean, they even reuse like half the levels in the game. No, and I think there's 7 levels. Um, and you play as Homer, Bart, Lisa, Marge, and Apu, and then you recycle a few. But you basically have 3 levels. One is Springfield, then you have like Springfield downtown, and then there's like the Hollywood Hills version of Springfield or something. And so yeah, you basically have San Francisco, Springfield, and like New York, I guess, more or less, or their version of that. And then, so you have 3 of those during the day, then 3 of those at night. And then the last one, which I was a very pleasant surprise, is Springfield, but they're invaded by aliens and zombies, and it's Halloween themed. And I was just by coincidence playing this actually, um, during the Halloween season, just right after and in November. And I thought, oh, that's really cool that this is actually a Halloween themed game. I love that when you play certain games and they have certain holiday themes or whatever and you forget about it, kind of like how people like to remind you that Die Hard is actually a Christmas movie. I really appreciate that. It was like a really nice surprise, and it really fits the whole vibe of the game. Like we're just here to have fun, dress up, have a few laughs. But again, I just cannot get over the dialogue in this game. The dialogue is legitimately really funny and really great. The thing that I keep coming back to is you beat one of the levels for Mr. Burns, and he says, "Attention, slaves who may return to your ugly families," and just crazy stuff like that. The grandpa going, my story begins in 19 Nickety, and we had to say Nickety instead of 20 because the Kaiser had stolen that word from us, and just like all this super esoteric things. I think the thing that makes the Simpsons really work is that each character really is an exaggeration of a certain stereotype, and in a way that they do not care. I think honestly one of my favorite characters has got to be the hillbilly. The one mission where you I can't say this because I like I've had personal experience with something like this where he's like, we've got to get the ketchup packets to get through the harsh winter. So you take a whole mission where you collect ketchup packets, and he's like, I know there's a dumpster around here near ways. I can feel it in my stank bone. Like I just love how you have each kind of strand of society represented and just pushed a little bit into extreme, from the comic book guy, the nerd, Dr. Nick, the malpractice doctor. You just have a really good array of very fun characters. And again, I laughed really hard while playing this game, and I really appreciate it. um and so a lot of the missions they do definitely repeat, but again, with the characters and the writing and the dialogue and the mix up of, getting new vehicles, and there's a lot of vehicles. There's like over 50 vehicles in this game, and seeing how they all perform and doing the weird GTA style weird missions where you have to like drive a donut truck or something. You really don't realize that you're repeating levels and repeating the same more or less mission, because they are legitimately really fun. So what are the basic missions? I mean, they're kind of similar to most racing games. So you have the one where you have to obviously win the race. You have checkpoint lamps, like lap checkpoints. There's actually not a lot of those. There's only a few of those. The other ones are destroy the vehicle by ramming into it or ramming it into other things within a time limit. You also have collect the things in the environment. You also have hit the vehicle to make it drop an item so you can collect it. And you have different variations of basically those 3 or 4 things. And then what's really interesting that I really really want to talk about because it took me aback how well this works. Which is that the main story mission kind of weave their way into the world. I don't know how to describe this, but like when you start the game, it's always like go talk to Marge as your main objective, and she'll be right there, and then she'll give you a mission, and then as soon as you finish that mission, it'll tell you the next objective where to go, and sometimes you'll like do the main objective of a mission, like collect all the things, but then it'll say something like, "Oh, get back to the person who gave you this mission in under 2 minutes or under a minute." And it's kind of like, oh, weird. Okay, this is not like I'm not free. Like I'm not free from the confines of the mission. It's still kind of happening more or less. And that to me was super interesting because it kept you very engaged. And so even when you beat that mission, it's like go to this person, you don't really check if there's a timeline or not. It just feels like this is the progression of the next thing to do. And so unlike a Grand Theft Auto where it's like, okay, you go, you do the mission, you know it ends, you go back to your safe house, you do the next thing. Here, the progression and the pacing of the game just feels like a feather. Like it's going so fast and so well. Like it feels really, really good because you don't even sometimes realizing you're doing a main story mission. You can actually just like stop the game, but it's like, oh, go meet this character, go meet this character, go by. I mean, sometimes there are kind of slowdown moments where it's like, okay, you need a specific costume or a specific vehicle to perform this thing. And it's a good way to introduce players if that's a mechanic they haven't used yet. But yeah, it's like, okay, go, get a bunch of coins essentially to buy this new thing. And so you kind of have to take a break from all of the pacing and just say, okay, I have to, go and explore. And so I really enjoy what they did because I can tell they kind of at some point wanted to make a platformer out of this game, but then just added cars. That's how I feel, because there's a lot of sections where you can go on foot. And again, like the on foot sections are like made pretty decently, pretty well. And so, you'll be driving around and there's obviously things where you can drive through windows and doorways and, different areas and, crash through ceilings and stuff and blow up reactors and do this kind of, fun stuff. And get a bunch of coins and discover, the freeway or like secrets and stuff. And just on secrets, there's of course coins you can find, which you use to buy new costumes and vehicles. There are cards you find which unlock multiplayer game modes, and there's 7 or 6 in each one. And then there is finally, what was it? Oh, gags. And so there's little interactable things that they actually do track if you get all of them per level or per mission. There might be things like pressing the action button or pressing Y on like the slurpery machine and it explodes and you get 1 coin from that. And it's not really super valuable, but it's like, oh, that's a thing that you need to find in the world, like a little collectible, little hidden story or thing. And I really enjoyed those. I think my favorite one was if you go into the Quickie Mart, you can click silent alarm, and the silent alarm will start blaring and start yelling, "Silent alarm activated." like there's a lot of comedy in this game that I think can't be expressed directly through TV. Like, in TV you're watching, you're doing whatever, but applying that kind of comedic writing to an interactive medium, I think it's been done the best in this game because it immediately has player feedback, player reaction, and the story and the irony of the situation is immediate essentially. And it's just really impressive, again, how it's done and how the collectibles are well laid out. So yeah, sometimes you have to get out of your car and go into like a shopping mall or like a little platforming district or in a trailer park and jump across the top of the trailer park things. And yeah, I don't know, it just feels fun. It feels good. I don't know. And again, there's just a lot of very good collectibles. So the way it's interesting how it does work with collectibles, because there is a definitely risk reward element here, which is that So the hit and run aspect of hit and run. So if you do end up hitting a lot of pedestrians, it's funny, they'll just kind of float along the ground. They'll be injured, but not super injured, like GTA where they're like a red smear across the pavement. But you have things where if you hit enough pedestrians and enough vehicles and enough, public property, you'll get the cops on you. And if the cops can hit you and force you to stop, you'll get busted, which then costs you 50 coins. And that's a pretty good sum of a good chunk of money. And so what you want to do is you kind of want to make enough coins in order to enough coins to essentially deposit them into a vehicle or a costume, and then once you beat the game you can kind of come back and kind of gather the rest of them and do the rest of them and just do all the little side stuff. And so it's cool that a lot of the signposts and like one coin style property will be destroyed and they will always respawn, but then there are certain pathways where those coins will never respawn, and so if you've been there that you won't see the coins there. So it's really a great collection of a racing game, GTA style, and also a collectathon, and that those two very basic mechanics make a very fun game, especially with the dialogue and the writing going on. And again, I just love how the main story like waypoint architecture system is just super, I would say, addictive or super fluid. Like it just keeps you constantly fed with interesting content. And there are definitely some missions where it will push you to your limit, like that last one I mentioned, but it's the one that does push you to your limit, at least one. And so again, everything feels super balanced, super well made. I think one of the best moments in the game is when I had to like, what was it? I had to destroy one of these cars, so I'm going to do search and destroy missions, and I accidentally hit too many things, and the cops were on me, and the cops actually ended up driving into the car that I was trying to kill and killing it for me. And I thought, oh, well, thank you, officer. I'll gladly pay that fine. So yeah, and stuff like that. And again, just the dialogue, the characters, the world, it feels very fun just to play this game. And that's the word that I have not used in years, which is fun. These old games from the 2000s, they just understood trying to make a game challenging and fun at the same time, and just having a good time with everything, a good vibe with the characters and the dialogue, and just it doesn't matter what you say. You just start to say the most ridiculous thing or the biggest thing, and even the advertisements and the world itself have funny things. There's also a mechanic where your thing can get hit too many times, it can explode, and it only costs 10 coins to repair it, but then it becomes this total wreck. There are wrenches found around the environment, so if you hit one of those, it just goes back to 100% health, so that's like perfect. There all are also sort of, I love this in GTA games, and I wish they kind of bring it back, but there are like hidden one-off things that don't make any sense. So for example, there's like, I think on top of the diner, there's an RC car you can get into and drive around in. In the first level, there's like this rocket car that you can't buy. It's just there for that one moment, and it's not even for a specific mission or anything. They just put it in the game. I didn't have a use for it or a mini game for it, so they just left it there, and it's just really fun to use. But yeah, there is definitely a risk reward function to the coins, because you can run out of coins, and the final car in the game costs 1,000 coins. So you have to be very conscious about how many coins you have, how much you're willing to lose, and if you're in a hard story mission where you're constantly losing a lot of coins, that you probably want to find more coins right then and buy something and deposit them basically. And then every time you get fined by the cops, they can only take less than 50 essentially. There's also very fun bonus missions between each level, where you basically find an NPC and do their very specific, quest style thing. And then if you do that, you find a bonus mission person, you get their specific vehicle, which is very fun. And of course, those can only be unlocked that way. What else? Another thing I really enjoy about this game is it makes the just the right amount of meta humor about the game itself. So, I really enjoyed the tutorial section where you have Bart basically telling you things like, okay, so this is a pretty basic ass video game. You press, R to go, L to brake, reverse, and this is your handbrake. And he's like, pretty much like every other single racing game that in existence. So I do enjoy. There's a lot of times where they're very tongue in cheek about the medium that they're in, and they're really utilize it to their full extent. I also really appreciate again all the hidden collectibles and items, and the big thing that's also very fun are the shortcuts that you find in the levels. That there are certain very tight corners that you have to take, and little things in between alleyways, and by the end of the game, certain story missions, they expect you to know every single shortcut in the level to get there as quickly as possible and just have the most insane run basically. And yeah, I don't know what else to say about this game. It's just fun, and once you beat it, you can go back, and I'm gonna go back and like collect everything because it's worth it. It's really fun to be here. The music, oh, I forgot to mention the music. The music is surprisingly good in some places. When you're playing as some missions as Bart, hey, you have this nice prog rock riff. When you're playing as Marge in certain parts of the city, you have like a very GTA synth or beat kind of going on. You have like one section where it sounds like jungle music. Sometimes you have a big band playing. A whole like selection of different musical styles that feel really good. The levels themselves are fun and not too frustrating. I mean, at most you might have to do it 2 or 3 times, and for the harder ones, maybe 10 times. And the final mission is again, it's just absolutely brutal. But yeah, this is a Halloween themed game, I guess. It's super fun, it's super chill, and I just had fun with it. And I can't say that about modern games. It's something where it's small, they reuse a lot of the same missions, the same you know, the same missions and the same maps, but the dialogue and the characters and the writing keep it different, and the different vehicles too also keep it different and new and fresh. And what I was saying to someone else is that I've never played a game where I felt like it was it was not longer than it needed to be, and it wasn't shorter than it needed to be. It felt like it was the perfect length of time for a game like this to be, where if you're, and this is how games used to be, if you were more of a casual person and you picked this up and played it for an hour, you would get the whole vibe of the game. You would get like, oh, okay, this is what this game is. It's like a fun, quirky, goofy thing. And if you only played the first hour, if you only played the demo of the game, you at least got the idea of it. But if you wanted the full 7, game experience, if you wanted something more than what the demo offered, then you could buy the full thing, and it like was justified in that aspect. It's not like modern games where they expect you to spend like 10 hours on a tutorial level and then invest yourself in a battle pass and a season pass, and get all the whistles and doohickeys, and like the first, like, read all the license agreements and all this other stuff, and like it just bogs down the experience. And like just getting to that core experience of like that first hour and telling the player this is what this game is. If you enjoy it, you can play the rest of it. If not, don't worry, walk away. That whole idea is just, I don't know, I guess foreign now. They want people to invest all their time and all their money and all their whatever into this game as if it's their life. But yeah, that's kind of all I have to say about it. Great game, fantastic, absolutely as good as people say. One of the best licensed games, and an absolute joy to play. Anyway, guys, that's it. I'll see you later.